people who have joined and for the understanding, basically myself, Dr. Madani Sendil, I'm the head and managing director of Atal Incubation Center, which is basically a government-funded incubation center. We host startups here. We are supposed to host at least about 25 in the first year and grow up to about 100 people to be hosted here. Our focus area in AIC Raise, our brand is called AIC Raise. It's a Niti Aayog is the Government of India's Planning Commission. Planning Commission has supported. It's funding about $1.5 million to set this up, set this incubator, and support the incubators. We don't typically seed the startups. We basically facilitate. We help them get seed funds, acceleration funds, and things like that. And we provide the ecosystem for them to grow by providing mentors. We provide infrastructure and so on. And specifically, AIC Raise is focused in social entrepreneurship. That's our focus area. Like you mentioned, it's not that we incubate only social entrepreneurship startups, but that's our focus area. We incubate other companies as well. We are about less than a year old, and we have about 15 startups now, about 50, 60 people working in this building. We are located in a city called Coimbatore, which is in the southern part of India. And it's an industrial town. Coimbatore is known for manufacturing of motor pumps, textile industry, and there is a location called Tirupur, right next to us, which exports most of the t-shirts, garments all around the world. I think Tirupur commands a serious portion of textile business around the world anyway. So in textile, Coimbatore is a big town, and also in technology, especially the motor technologies, Coimbatore is a big one. And one more area where Coimbatore, the location where we are, is best is education. Largest number of educational institutions in the country, one of the, I think if you pick 2-3 cities in the entire country, Coimbatore is one. We have close to more than 100 institutions in this town. And we are inside one college called Ratnam College, and that hosts multiple institutions. It's a campus. We have built a campus around with multiple institutions for arts and science, engineering, management, and so on and so forth. Plus, we have a tech park, which hosts IT companies, ITS, electronic hardware manufacturing tech park. That's basically companies come there and run their companies. And then finally, we have this incubation center, which functions as a bridge between the institutions in this campus. It's a 70-acre campus, and this AIC Raise functions as a bridge between the institution and the tech park. So institution has about 5,000 students, 6,000 students with 40, 50 different courses. And in the tech park, we have about 25 companies and about 3,000 people work. That's the campus in which I am, and the city is Coimbatore. And to introduce Juhi, who is going to give a lot of information on the situation in the US and Virginia and Fairfax County and all that. We have her. Thanks for joining the Meet webinar, which is very important, especially at this point, because in a way, if you look at it, it's a best time for new thought process, best time for disrupting certain things like education in India. It's naturally getting disrupted and new things are coming out. So it's a great time to innovate. I'll let her introduce herself for a minute, and then we'll get into the conversation.
Thank you, Madan, and thank you for sharing all that information about AIC Raise and Ratnam College as well. you know, what you were describing about Coimbatore and it being a hub of business activity. I see some similarities there, although the industries are completely different for Fairfax County. So I have not been to Coimbatore. I have been to Chennai though. And
you're welcome immediately. Yeah.
I know we have a few companies here that are that have been founded by people that are from Coimbatore and Chennai.
Really? But not now, right? Until the COVID ends, right? So.
Yeah. No, what I meant were, I mean,
Just kidding, yeah.
these are now naturalized citizens, but that's where they came from originally.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
We have a good representation of your community.
Oh, great. Yeah.
In fact, we had done a program in Chennai when I was visiting with the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce. And one of our companies, again, native from Chennai, he is the CFO of the company, and he had live streamed in to our seminar to give his perspective of the county. So that was nice. So quick introduction of myself. I am Juhi Naithani. I work with the Economic Development Authority of the local government in Northern Virginia, specifically Fairfax County. So you can think of it as the equivalent of a municipality. Every state has several counties. Fairfax County is one of the 90+ counties in Virginia. It happens to be the most populous, most densely populated, and the largest both by size and economic impact in the state. So we are located very close to Washington, D.C., and as part of the local government, we are an agency funded completely by the local government, and our sole purpose is to attract and retain business investment into Fairfax County. So we do outreach to various markets within the United States as well as outside of the US. And we solicit business investment, by which I mean expansion of businesses into Fairfax County. And the other role or part of my job as business investment manager is to maintain relationships with the businesses that are already here, our resident businesses, and support them with a suite of services. And my colleague and I will go into details of that for you later, but that's a brief introduction about myself. The scene behind me is Tyson's. Tyson's is the largest business district of Fairfax County. And while this is a real picture, it is not my window that you're looking out of. It's just my background, but I wanted you to get a sense of the place where I am now. Yeah, just briefly touching upon the COVID situation. Madan already alluded to it. It's not any different from India. We continue to get new cases every day. Non-essential businesses are closed, and the governor of the state has issued a stay-at-home order for other businesses and people. So stores are closed, lots of restaurants are closed, smaller businesses are struggling a bit, technology businesses continue. So I'm sure that that's reflective of the situation in India at the moment as well. And I just wanted to give you a sense of it. And I'm happy to take questions at the end. And Eben and Madan, if you like, I can get started with my presentation, but maybe the co-panelists should introduce themselves.
Sure, yeah. I think the co-panelists are there already. One is Eben, of course. I think I'll get him on there. And then it's Ashish. Can you introduce yourself?
Sure. Am I audible?
Yeah, very clear.
Okay. All right. So thanks, Madan and Juhi. My name is Ashish. I am the director of FCEDA office in India. You know, it's a real pleasure to have this webinar today. As Madan was mentioning, this is excellent opportunity. This is the perfect time, you know, to discuss and share knowledge. I also have two of my colleagues on this webinar today, on this Zoom call today, Dev Malik, who's our colleague manager based in Bangalore, and my other colleague, Beena. She's based in Mumbai, and primarily our responsibility is to help companies, startups, entrepreneurs from India who are looking at setting up a business in Fairfax County in the US, provide them with information, with connections to make sure that their journey from India to the US to Fairfax County is easy in terms of setting up, whether that's information around taxation or cost of doing business. We are not specialists, but we have answers to questions which entrepreneurs and businesses typically have, or we know the people in the industry who would have those answers. That's the important thing. For all the tech entrepreneurs and startups on this webinar, on this Zoom call today, I welcome you all. Thank you so much for joining.
Super. So now, thank you, Ashish. Now let me have Ebin introduce himself.
Hi, everyone. So Ebin here from AIC Raise. So good morning, Juhi, and good evening, Ashish. And I welcome everyone to interactive session. So let me give some ground rules of the session. So probably we'll be having 20-30 minutes of presentations from Juhi, and Ashish, if Dev is joining, he will be giving the presentations, and then we'll take up the question answers from the question answer session, and we'll have an interactive session of 20 minutes. This will be the basically the schedule, and I welcome Juhi and Dev to start the webinar right now.
By the way, to just add something, Ebin heads the AIC practically on the day-to-day manner, and he's doing a great job fantastically. He has disrupted. He has been innovating, sitting in this building all by himself and pulling up people from the town, and he has been innovating with various products like psychology support, shield development, ventilator development, and so on, even in this period. And that was a great platform for us to even try out all different disruptive ideas needed for this situation. I was wanting to know if things like that are happening in the US and what is the specific opportunity there. Before that, we have Dave here back on the panel, and I would like him to introduce himself, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much, Mr. Madan, for giving us this opportunity. Yeah, hi. So I represent Fairfax County Development Authority and help the Indian organizations to set up and expand their business into the Fairfax County.
Okay.
Yeah.
Super. Yeah. Thank you, Dave. I think we will go right into the presentation, and then we will get to the interaction between us and then to the rest of the participants, I guess. I'll let Juhi take over for the presentation now. Please go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds good. Just to add to what Dave said, he is based in Bangalore, so closer to where you all are. And so offices in Mumbai and Bangalore. I see Ashish has managed to come online as well. That's fantastic. So Ashish, you can put face to the name. Ashish is our director. Ashish, Dev, and Beena are absolutely fantastic in what they do to support our work here at headquarters in Tyson. So they are the face of Fairfax County EDA in India. And
you have a big team here. So
yes, we do. And I'd say anybody who's interested in finding out more about them, they're in your time zone, and a great resource for us. So thank you, guys.
Certainly. That's a great support for sure.
So I'm going to start sharing my screen now. I have a presentation, a short presentation that I'd like to share with the group, the audience. Welcome, everybody. If someone can just give me a thumbs up that they're able to see the screen. Excellent. Just want to hide the video panel so I can see as well. So welcome everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to ADVAN and Madan for letting us present a little bit about Fairfax County. I am going to talk today about the county in general, Northern Virginia, the location of the county, and how all the factors get together to make an innovation ecosystem. So a couple of notes before we start. I know a number of you are familiar with Silicon Valley, and usually Silicon Valley is associated with innovation, especially from tech companies. And today is an opportunity for us as a team to also convey to you that we have an equally robust innovation ecosystem in the Washington, DC area on the other side of the country. And quickly about the picture that you see on the screen in front of you, that is Tyson's, the largest business district in Fairfax County. And you can see it's well-built, good infrastructure, which is often the backbone of an ecosystem in any case. I'm going to start right away with the location of our county. As I said, it's on the East Coast and in what we call the mid-Atlantic region of the United States. So the zoomed in portion shows you our location relative to Washington, DC, which is the capital of the nation. So we are a little bit to the west of Washington, DC, and you can see that on the west border of Fairfax County is the Dulles International Airport. So we are flanked by one international airport and the capital of the country, and we are right in the middle, making it a really good location when it comes to access not only to the larger Washington, D.C. metro area, but also to the rest of the nation. The D.C. area is the fourth largest market in the United States. And if you look at our location, it being in the center of the East Coast, you can actually reach 2/3 of the population within a 2-hour drive, flight, or train journey. So you see the Eastern Seaboard corridor, and you can see where we are located relative to New York and the Research Triangle in the Carolinas, as well as Atlanta. So just to put everything in perspective. On the west, the cities pointed out, they might not be legible, are Seattle up in the north, San Francisco right in the center, and Los Angeles a little bit further south. So that's to give you an idea of where we are located, and that in itself or by itself becomes one of the premier reasons for businesses to be located in Fairfax County. A quick run through the specific advantages of the county itself, and I'm going to go into a little bit of detail in later slides on these. I already talked about the access to the market, and by this I mean the physical location being, you know, a prime advantage of locating in Fairfax County. We also have a robust international business community. We have more than 400 international companies that operate out of Fairfax County at the moment, and they represent all areas of the world. So obviously it is a place that is preferred by the international community as well. I'm going to talk a little bit in more detail about the innovation later, but certainly it is a hub for economic impact and innovation in the region as well as in the nation. I will go into slight detail of the sources of capital as well, but when it comes to investment, it comes from various sources, from banks to investment bankers to venture capital to seed funding. One of the main reasons that companies choose to locate in Fairfax County is the availability of talent. We have about 60 higher education institutions that are in and around the area, which means we have a good supply of talent, skilled talent available to businesses here. So Fairfax County, just to give you a demographic profile, we are about 1 million strong in terms of population. But for our businesses, because of our location, businesses have access to more than 3 million talented workforce that lives and works in the region. You see a picture behind you. It's another business center in Fairfax County, specifically Reston Town Center. We have diverse sources of or options when it comes to real estate as well. And by that, I mean not just commercial real estate, but also residential. And of course, it wouldn't be complete without a good quality of life. And we do have that to offer to people that not only work here, but also live here. So that's a snapshot of Fairfax County. I'd like to go into a little bit more detail about the industries that are prevalent in our county. And the list here makes it really clear that we are very tech focused within technology. And technology itself is such a broad term, you know. I should add here that information technology is certainly our forte here in Fairfax County. And these are the various industries where you see business activity and innovation in Fairfax County. So cybersecurity, we have a large cluster of cybersecurity companies and providers. But as you know, cybersecurity now is applicable to any and every industry because, and we've seen even now with the whole COVID situation and teleworking that it creates not only opportunities, but also challenges when it comes to cybersecurity. Defense and aerospace is another big area. Again, technology that supports this industry is often developed and born here in Fairfax County. And then I want to point out government contracting as well. It is a large segment of our businesses are actually vendors or providers to the federal government. Some are also catering to state and local governments like ours. And I was telling Madan a short while ago that the US federal government is the largest consumer in the world. So it offers a lot of business opportunity to providers. And finally, corporate headquarters, I think, and that's primarily because of the strategic location of our county, that it is a preferred location for corporate headquarters from companies around the world. And I'm going to show you that in the next slide. These are some of the major employers that currently operate in Fairfax County. And I want to point out the diversity of the industries represented here in this slide. So yes, you see a lot of tech companies here, but then you also see banking and financial services, Capital One. You see hospitality, Hilton is headquartered here. You see healthcare, the Innova Hospital Group is headquartered in Fairfax County as well. But then you also see Volkswagen Group of America, their headquarters are here in Fairfax County, and they run a large part of their electric vehicle systems operations from here. So I wanted to point out the diversity in the companies that we have in Fairfax County, and all of these factors that I am pointing out are really what lead to that innovation ecosystem that we're talking about today. We are headquarters of 10 Fortune 500 companies. So that shows you, and I have to add here that I think the proximity to Washington, D.C. as the nation's capital plays a large role in headquarter locations for corporations as well. But what it means for local businesses, resident businesses, businesses that work here is that they have access to these companies, not only as customers, but also as partners, as well as the fact that, you know, innovation drives innovation. So the existence of Amazon Web Services makes it a good location for Amazon Web Service partners to come here, and then leads to new products due to the demand that's created right here within the ecosystem. A little bit about innovation specifically, since that is what the topic of the day is. This slide gives you an idea of where the funding is or what the ecosystem is when it comes specifically to innovation. A lot of funding comes from the federal government. You see the $2.2 billion here are the research and development awards that have been given by the federal government to local businesses in our county. Capital investment, I am going to update you with a few figures. This is a slightly older piece of information, but just to give you an idea, in calendar year 2019, Fairfax County saw 74 deals worth $530 million when it comes to capital investment. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. There is a grant available from the federal government that's called SBIR, Small Business Innovation Research. And a lot of money has been awarded to not just startups, but small businesses that operate in Fairfax County in order to develop their unique ideas. And then there are a number of federal labs here as well. So again, since we're talking about an innovation ecosystem, this is what makes it happen. So I wanted to give you a brief idea of that as well. In terms of businesses in general, and I know that the audience is largely startups and you're starting out, I'm not exactly sure of what stage you are in terms of your commercialization, whether you're in idea, innovation, incubation stage. But that said, there are a number of resources available to businesses that are planning to start in Fairfax County. And certainly you see our name up there. We are, I would say, we should be your first stop if you were planning to do business in Fairfax County, because our sole purpose is to support business investment here. So there are a number of sources available. Anything that comes from Fairfax County EDA is free of charge, but there are some paid resources available through the Small Business Administration or the Community Business Partnership. These range from incubation centers, co-working spaces, to mentoring. The SCORE that you see here is the Service Corps of Retired Executives. And these are free mentoring sessions available to new businesses, whether you want them to look over your business plan or you want them to guide you into next steps of how to open business. The county itself has a BizX program, and it's short for business experience. You will be assigned, if you should be so inclined, you'll be assigned a representative that can help you, again, build your business, build your plans, and take you through the actual process, because the US is a very regulation-centric society. So there are a number of regulations that are imposed on businesses as well. And the Business Experience Center makes sure that you're aware of all the licenses and permits and approvals that you will need to actually start your business here. When it comes to financing, I do want to point out that you see our name here, but we don't provide financing directly to businesses. Instead, we act as liaisons for businesses that are looking for financing, whether it be through banks to scale up, through private investment groups, through venture capitalists, through the Small Business Administration's lending program, which basically offers loans at very good terms that are more affordable for small business. And the state's own initiative, the Center for Innovative Technology, CIT, which offers funding for startups in different stages of their life. Now, there are obviously criteria associated or conditions associated with these funding. And I would say that across the board, one of the first criteria is going to be that you have to be a Virginia business to start with to get access to these sources of funding. And we can talk more about that later. I wanted to again go back and point out the fact that without a good quality of life, you have an incomplete business ecosystem. So it's a great place to work, but it's also a great place to live. We have a wide variety of entertainment and recreation options available right here in Fairfax County. And that, I think, really completes the picture. So we have businesses that are existing here, a business support ecosystem, an innovation mindset, and then add to that the quality of life. And that really is what makes Fairfax County a prime location for business. So with that, I'm going to end my presentation. My thought was to give you an idea of what we are talking about today, Fairfax County, and how we believe that it is really the power of place. And feel free to visit our website for a bunch of resources and information about Fairfax County. I'll stop here. I'll stop sharing my screen. And I know that there are questions that we will handle later, but I'm going to pass off to Ebin and Madan to go to the next stage of the presentation.
Super, Juhi. It was a fantastic presentation. It certainly gives a lot of understanding on the location. It looks certainly probably the best place to be in and work and innovate.
It is, it is.
I was just telling Ebin, I think once the COVID ends, we should just fly in there because there is specific interest, because we do have institutions and we are particularly looking at institutions to work with in the US. So it's so attractive and looks like you have a fantastic ecosystem, and it's great that, you know, you have an office in India and you are able to work together with them and trying to help people who want to come in there. That's again looks like a very, very important support system you do have there. And in terms of the segments of work also, there seems to be a lot of synergy because it's tech primarily there. And as you know, in India, it's IT and tech and electronics is what primarily the new tech world is striving to. And there seems to be a great synergy as well. So it's a great presentation. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
If Dave wants to add something to it, or Ashish wants to add something to it, I'll let them do that, and then we'll go to specific questions.
Yeah, certainly. I'll share my screen. Just 1 second. Yeah, hi. Is this visible to everyone?
Yes, very clear.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Mr. Madan, for giving us this opportunity, and the team AIC Raise for organizing this. And a big thank you to Juhi for setting up the context. Well, before we jump into the presentation, I have shared my coordinates here for everyone to reach out to me after the presentation. And I would love to get in touch with each one of you for any of the concerns. Before starting everything, a brief introduction about me. Well, last 20-30 days of lockdown have made me a home chef, master in cleaning utensils, and walking encyclopedia of all things Netflix and LinkedIn. Well, apart from
great startup.
If any of you have any doubts about all these things, so you can again reach out to me, and I would love to help you in all this. Yeah. So before I start with anything, the first thing we would love to discuss about, or one should know why amongst all the great nations, the United States of America should be the choice of destination for your business. Well, there are many points here to read, but I'll just point out 6 key takeaways, 6 major key takeaways, starting from the world's largest market. Well, the US offers the world's largest market on the earth. It has highest spending on the earth and accounts for nearly 1/3 of the global market consumption. Having said that, coming to the second point, nexus of innovation. The USA is the world's leader in R&D. The companies of all sizes benefiting and contributing from the ecosystem of innovation and the inspiration, as Juhi has mentioned. Number 3, ease of doing business. The US is ranked amongst the best for its overall ease of doing business. So when I say ease of doing business, it means a stable democracy, transparent legal system, and even field for all kind of companies. So we don't differentiate between resident companies or foreign-based companies. I would love to mention that from India there are some 30 plus companies from various, let's say, vertical, diverse verticals of the businesses. For example, healthcare, blockchain, artificial intelligence, and who are, let's say, doing a lot better in Fairfax County. So I'm not biased, when I mention that they're doing a lot better in Fairfax County. Yeah. Now, coming to number 4, the most required for any business is the workforce talent. Well, the US prides itself in saying that the workforce here with us is diverse, skilled, innovative, mobile, and among the most productive in the world. Coming to number 5, abundant resources. Well, US is home to a vast and varied resources, natural resources, and are well connected by an expansive infrastructure network that help companies efficiently produce and move their products. As Juhi has showcased in her slide, that Fairfax County itself is well connected with the, let's say, many airports also, national and international, and then domestic wise, metro, and all modes of transportation. And last but not least, access to capital. Well, we pride ourselves for having the most developed, liquid, flexible, and efficient financial market in the world. Yeah. Having just explained why USA should be the destination of your choice, it is but natural, for us to also tell you why Fairfax County, Virginia should be on the right of top of your consideration list. Well, there are many points here, but I'll just, read out the key facts here. It is known as the International Business Center with balanced and thriving economy. We pride ourselves having a world-class infrastructure, competitive tech structure, attractive real estate option, and excellent education avenues. That points out to the innovative workforce talent. And of course, there are a lot of facts, as Juhi has mentioned, many of them, that, why Fairfax County should be the place to be for most of the innovative businesses. It is but natural for all of you to have some doubts now in your mind. And from our experience of commonly asked doubts, some of the doubts are as follows. Well, when, once you start with their business, the first thing which comes to their mind, the first thing you would all obviously want to know, how large is the market? What is the kind of ecosystem? What is the kind, what are the kind of companies, peers? What is the kind of ecosystem we have in Fairfax? So I would be glad to mention this, that we have some 9,000 technology companies, mentioning Facebook in Virginia, the data center, and as I mentioned, 30 plus companies. Now coming to the second point, the most thinkable, let's say, doubt here, location. Now, how will you choose the best location for your office? Whether it will be a co-working space or it will be home executive office space or commercial space. We recently, one of the very innovative organization called Mission Lofts from Fairfax County. I recently came across, one of the innovations from them, that they have come up with a new design in this pandemic, especially, that that design will provide you the same feeling of home. Also, you can make the same place your home and office also. So both the office and home will be fulfilled from one location. Now, coming to the third part, who will help you figure out the legalities? When I say legalities, it could be setting up the incorporation. It could be tax liabilities. It could be all the let's say all the obligations which any organization can face. Now, coming to the next point, how will you get access to the funding opportunities? Last but not least, where can you hire the best talent, and how can you hire the best talent? Well, here is the requirement, or here is the space where Fairfax County Economic Development Authority comes into the picture, and we are the sole aim of the Fairfax County Economic Development Authority is to promote the competitive advantages of the Fairfax County and influence the growth of a diverse and innovative ecosystem. The services that we offer come to you at no additional cost. So, we are proud of ourselves in saying that the services which we offer will come to you at no cost. Now, not taking any more of your time, the doubts I mentioned in my previous slide about the market research, the location, the legalities, tax liabilities, talent for your organization, and funding resources for your organization. Well, so Fairfax County Economic Development Authority checks all the boxes. Will help you identify commercial real estate options. It could be co-working space. It could be, let's say, your own office space. For example, I'll mention one more organization from India called Granule Pharmaceuticals. So IT companies, can start, let's say, lean can start with a team of 3, 4, 5, 10. But Granule Pharmaceuticals is from pharmaceutical sector, and they started their manufacturing unit in the Fairfax County, from Fairfax County. Coming to the next point, so we'll help you, we'll guide you towards the relevant workshops, relevant events for your business. We act as Juhi mentioned, we act as a liaison to local and state governments. Will help you with the market and the right industry insights for your business. We'll be helping you in the introduction to partners, industry bodies, chambers of commerce, and all the relevant events. We'll help in the introduction with the right incubators and accelerators, because since there are a lot of startups in this discussion, and we'll help you introduce with all the funding resources also. That was all from my side. And before I hand it over to Madan, I would like to thank all of you for taking out the time and giving us a chance to present it to you. Over to you, Madan.
Fantastic, Dave. So it's all this preferences and support applies even after recent President Trump's announcements. Just a question.
I'll answer that. Yes, yes. As a county, we remain committed to our business. And in fact, we started the discussion by talking about the COVID situation. And both Dave and I mentioned to you that our sole mission is to attract and retain business investment. But in these times, we have had to pivot. And our focus is now on collecting resources and providing them to businesses that are suffering. So we're not fair weather friends. We are your friends, regardless of what situation you might be in. So definitely think of our organization as a resource, at least the starting point, like I said, and we might be able to guide you in the right direction based on your specific need.
Yeah, perfect. So would Ashish like to add something, or would we go further on questions?
So you know, my final thing is our services are absolutely free of cost. We never ever, and I always say it twice, never ever charge for our services. We are fully funded by the government, the Fairfax County government, and essentially our services to startups, entrepreneurs, and companies from India is absolutely free of cost. So that's the most important thing. Use us. You know, Dave has shared his coordinates on the presentation. Our coordinates are also available on our website. Feel free to have a discussion on what are your business plans for the US and how we can help you, you know, as startups and entrepreneurs set up in the US.
Perfect, Ashish. I think as soon as the lockdown is out, I'm going to take the next flight down to your office there. So
thank you.
So that's so attractive. And back to Juhi or any of you. So basically, the Economic Development Authority has all the companies or all the startups in the Fairfax County under your view, or does it only support companies who register with you?
No, there is no registration per se. We support all the companies that operate here, okay, and the companies that are interested in expanding here.
Okay. So approximately how many of such companies are under, under your view?
So I'm not exactly sure what you mean by under our view in terms of
meaning how many companies are there in the Fairfax County which you probably support and probably review, right? I mean, their growth, and you probably monitor, or I don't know what else you do.
Yeah, so I would say that while we have a database of companies, it's not, it may not be complete, and a lot of the support comes when the request is initiated by the company itself. But just to give you a sense, about close to 40,000 businesses operate here.
Okay.
And our focus remains on the 9,000 that they've mentioned of the tech companies. So when I say, you know, the 37,000 companies, those include your retailers and, you know, restaurants and things like that. But our support is not as relevant to them as it is for offices and corporations. So those are the ones.
Perfect. That's a perfect answer to what I was trying to understand. And in terms of the tech ecosystem itself, like you explained cybersecurity and a few other areas seems to be your core strength there. Is it because of the proximity to the national capital and security reasons around there, or how does it work?
Yeah, certainly that has had a large role to play there. But if you look at, so cybersecurity is, yes, a big segment for us, but part of the tech ecosystem. And the reason for a number of technology companies or IT companies to be here, it goes back to perhaps the time of AOL. And, you know, when they initially set up their operations here, and that led to a lot of consequent data center activity. So you know that Northern Virginia is the data center alley of the world. 70% of the world's internet flows through Northern Virginia. And because of access to that infrastructure, companies followed. And then it just, like I said before, the innovation begets more innovation. And so AOL started the trend. Now we have Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, Google, they all have presence in Fairfax County.
Okay. So how about your particular office itself? Like, do you have, how many people you have? What size of operation it is?
Yeah, so we are one agency of the local government. Our agency specifically has about 40 people on staff. I am one of the business investment managers. And there are about 15 of us in all. And the other folks in the agency are covering things like market intelligence, communications, operations, of course, and IT. So we're a small company, a small organization, but a very
impact a lot.
Yeah.
So coming to a specific question which is running in my head, in terms of fundraising, I used to live in the US, so I know sort of how it works. And but for general understanding, in particular, when we talk about businesses outside of the country, people ask how the bank funding works. Like, meaning, do you need collateral security? In India, it's almost impossible to raise money without collateral securities. But people generally looking out for business abroad want to see an ecosystem where it's possible, more possible to raise money without collateral securities and all that. How does it work there? And does it work to raise money without collateral securities? I mean, leave out the equity part, private equity or fundraising part. In the debt fund itself, how does it work to raise money?
So a few different ways to look at it. You know, recently with the COVID situation, the federal government had these special loans that were provided through the Small Business Administration. So essentially, these were loans that your local bank would provide because your business is struggling. However, it would be backed by guarantees of the Small Business Administration, or SBA, which is a federal government agency. Even those loans required some kind of collateral, although they said that we are not going to deny your loan if you have zero collateral. But if your loan amount is going to exceed $25,000, we would like to see some collateral. And then putting it in the startup context, it did become a little bit challenging because these were companies that were funds, yeah, but they were backed by funds, venture funds and angel funds. So the collateral would have to come from the source of investment, right? So that became a little bit of a deterrent. But I think the situation remains similar. The kind of collateral might vary, and there is no substitute to having a good relationship with your bank. I will say that here. And if you have a really good relationship with your bank branch, they may, you know, make adjustments because you're a good customer. But in general, if you talk to them, they'll say, yes, we require collateral for a loan.
Yeah. You were mentioning about the ecosystem in terms of the Valley versus Fairfax County itself. It's comparable, and it does have equally or a good ecosystem to be compared with the Valley itself. So from my understanding of Valley, it's about the number of startups or number of innovations happening there, plus the equity players are all there. So you start bringing up with some ideas, you do get people who are already working in that area or similar areas. It just happens because there are so many companies, so many equity players are all there in one place, and that's the ecosystem what we are talking about. So is that the same in Fairfax County as well? Do you have a similar ecosystem in terms of private equity players being there, and how many are there? Who are the bigger ones? And in terms of the startup ecosystem, like I think you said about 9,000 tech startups are there. So how does it compare with the Valley itself?
Yeah, so the 9,000 is 9,000 tech companies. They're not startups. They are a mix of
tech companies. Yeah,
tech
even in the Valley, it's
yeah.
all tech companies, right? I mean, need not be a startup. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to answer your question very simply. Yes, the ecosystem is there, but the scale is definitely a lot smaller than what you see in Silicon Valley, being completely honest. So the scale of the same ecosystem is larger in Silicon Valley, which is why it happens to be more visible than the DC area. However, when it comes to the players, they are there. So we have a Mid-Atlantic Venture Association, and like I was mentioning the funding to you before. So I'm just going to refer to my notes here, if that's okay with you. In
Absolutely okay.
fourth quarter of 2019, about $20 million of capital funding was received by companies in Fairfax County. A large part of this was in the AI, cybersecurity, and healthcare sectors. And most of the funding, the largest amount of funding, was early stage funding. So that gives you an idea of, the fact that yes, innovation is happening here, but so is funding going on. The second most funding was for late stage. So when companies were ready to scale and grow and looking for funding, that was the next big allocation of funding. And the third in line was seed stage. So these three comprised a large portion, more than 50% of the $20 million that was actually received in the fourth quarter of 2019. So this is kind of testament to the fact that the ecosystem is there. All the right players are there. And when I talk about players, the sources of funding were perhaps the least from accelerators, but more from angels and venture capital funds and so on and so forth. And what I'd like to do is maybe Dave can share with Eben, and you can distribute to your larger membership our capital investment fact sheet. So this is a fact sheet that we produce in-house. The EDA produces it, and it's based on public sources of information.
Okay.
Gives you a snapshot every quarter of venture capital and capital investment in Fairfax County. So it's very specific to our county, but it gives you an idea of the investment activity, which is relevant to startups. In fact, it also has resources for connecting with the right parties when it comes to capital investments, or a couple of websites or associations or organizations that you could get in touch with.
Okay, fantastic, fantastic. So, second stage, I mean, you were mentioning how many Fortune 500 companies were there? I think you were mentioning
10 are headquartered here. A number of them are represented.
Headquartered there.
Have headquarters, yeah. That's more than what DC can say. That's more than 30 other states in the United States.
Right. Okay. That's a big number for a county. Yeah, for certainly sure. So I think we'll go to the questions from the audience. I think we have about.
You have a question?
You have a question. So I will let you answer it. Answer live. You can click it up and do it. You will EDA support in bringing accelerators. For instance, if I want to have a startup over there, but I am in early stage, will you support me by pulling me in accelerator or incubator? That's the question.
Right. I'm happy to answer that question, but before that, I actually have a question for Madan, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Juhi. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to understand a little bit better your model for AIC Raise.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you mentioned that, $1.5 million were injected into this ecosystem, but how does your cohort model work? You said you have 15 startups. Are they, is the cohort run for a certain period of time? Are they paying to be part of your center?
Yeah. See, basically this $1.5 million is basically for our own administrative and the infrastructure which goes in there. It supports the mentors and it supports the events which we conduct and so on. It's basically for the infrastructure itself. But when it comes to the startups, so what is the incentive in getting in here is access to all the. Once you are in an AIC, you are considered as a startup in a proper startup ecosystem in the country. So you do have access to all the government projects, and you do have access. There are certain criteria which you need to go through for tendering process. All those things are relaxed once you are in an AIC. That's an incentive. Then we have a very good maker space in our place. So the startups here, they do have a free access or a very subsidized access to use the makerspace. For example, the ventilator, the emergency ventilator, which was put together in a week or so, was done in the makerspace. There are 3D printers there. There are design studios there. So there was another startup who built a shield in a couple of days using the 3D printer and the design studio here. So that's the makerspace infrastructure that's available. But when the startup comes, we obviously attract the startups to come over here through the mentor network which we have created, the networks, access like people like you, whom we interact with, all those things are offered as an incentive. We attract them. For them to come and use it here, we have co-working space. That's on a subsidized cost. You will get it at a cost lesser than any other place in town or any other place in the country. So that's again a subsidized cost. They can come in here. They will be here. We put them through different programs. Like for example, accelerator program is run every 6 months. So they get into the accelerator program and they sharpen their business plan. And then we continuously work with them to raise money for them if they need. And also we provide them access to the customers, but they do pay a cost that is a very subsidized cost. And we expect them to get better. And if we raise money for them, there is some success fees or whatever. The way the AIC itself sustains is eventually when the startups break out or graduate, we graduate them in a couple of years. We are expected to graduate them in 2-3 years. Graduation by definition in an AIC is they get access to first stage Series A money or Series B money and so on. So once they raise the formal capital raising money, they are seen as a graduated company. Until then, it's very meager cost they will spend to be here. And even for that, certain cases, we raise them seed money as well. So if the idea is great, the entrepreneur or the team can work without money. And once that succeeds as a success fees, we take equity in them. So eventually, over 5 years, government supports you for 5 years for this entire setup. Eventually, in 5 years, you are expected to build enough number of startups whose equity will pay you, and the ecosystem will be here. For example, 2 floors, we have this incubation infrastructure, but then we have 2 other floors which we wanted to do purely shared office space. So this entire payments which come in for the co-working space and all that, plus the startups graduating, all that will eventually start supporting the incubation center sustenance itself. So this is only a viability gap funding by the government to put up a incubation center. But we will ensure for the startups whatever we are supposed to ensure. I mean, it depends on the idea, but we will ensure that they get the access to necessary capital, necessary customers, and so on.
Okay, great. That's fantastic. Thank you for explaining that. And I would say it's a very generous model by I think that
it's a tough model to start with for sure. For a couple of years, you probably don't have. It's very difficult to see revenue into the system in the beginning, but hopefully, and it basically depends on the overall environment here. We are expecting that good startups will come here and graduate. That's the expectation, and we believe from the kind of traction we have been creating, I think we will be able to do that. Yeah.
So that's great. So it's a little bit different here because US is a very capitalist market. The time period is also very short in terms of, you mentioned 5 years for graduation for your startups. Typically,
the 5 years is for us to become sustainable. without government funds.
Understood.
So
So
we expect
what is the, yeah. What is the
startups? It's
startup?
about 2 years, 3 years maximum.
Yeah.
Even
so
that is probably liberal there.
Yeah. Even by those standards, the startups here are expected to run a cohort with an accelerator for maybe 3 to 4 months.
Okay.
And they kind of get a crash course in those 3 to 4 months on same kind of activity, mentoring and, you know, business planning and access to funding in terms of introductions, you know, pitch fests and demo days and things like that. And then they are expected to, in this time period, build their own market and get up to speed faster. So that is the typical model of an accelerator here. The accelerators are not run or funded by the government. So it's, you know, either private
commercial entities, yeah.
Yeah, group of people get together. And
it is like that. I see, even with AIC Raise, we are eventually expected to be that way.
Right.
It's only a viability gap for a period. They plug in the deficit, you know.
Right. And then to go back to the audience members' question about, you know, connecting with such accelerators, certainly we can introduce you to the accelerators that you are looking for. And especially if we know what your particular needs are, we'll be able to guide you to sources of funding as well. And I want to be very clear here that, you know, capital venture funding is one thing, loans are yet another source, but then grants are a whole other, you know, avenue for companies to get funding without any kind of equity stake or any kind of obligation, so to speak, because grants are available freely. So there are multiple sources of funding, and yes, we are able to connect you to these sources. None of these are owned by us. So funding does not come from my organization. My organization does not have an accelerator or incubator, but we are connected with the local you know, network of incubators, accelerators, sources of funding, banks, what have you.
So,
Mr. Madan, I'll also probably add a couple of things there. One, you know, there are different accelerators and incubators by subsectors. So as Juhi rightly mentioned, it is important for us to understand what's the need of the startup, in which subsector, in which area would they operate. The second thing is there would also be a selection process. So it is not necessary that even if we recommend or introduce, whether that accelerator or incubator would accept the startup. So they run a very stringent selection criteria, and the startup and the entrepreneur needs to prepare themselves to make sure that they are able to qualify for that accelerator or incubator.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, yeah, that's expected. So for the audience, I think if you want to, please raise the hand. I think you can use the raise hand feature and raise the hand, and then the mic can be opened up for you if you want to.
And I just, so sorry, but I wanted to let you know that I do have another meeting at 11 o'clock. So we do have 20 minutes, but sure, happy to answer questions. And I'll be quick.
Yeah, I guess 20 minutes is good enough time. So for the audience, if you want to raise the hand, then we can open up the mic for you to directly ask the question as well. There is a question which is here in the chat window, which says that from Siva Subramaniam, can we also get a business accelerator and product marketing support from Fairfax County? Do you support them in product marketing?
So not directly.
Okay.
So we do not do marketing or business development for our companies. Like Dave had mentioned in his presentation, that we will connect you to the right chamber, the right member in the business community that can help guide you to where you can best do networking, for example. We ourselves conduct some events that provide an opportunity for networking and organic business development by the company itself. So we don't do it on your behalf, but we can certainly guide you there. Ashish, you want to add?
Right. So I think, Juhi, absolutely the answer is, the entrepreneur and the company would know how to market their product the best. A government agency can never be expected to do that. But yes, we can open networks, we can make connections, and then, whatever business development happens, that's up to the entrepreneur, to the startup, and to the customer.
Yeah, absolutely. You support in the networking. Yeah, that's the, I guess that's the
We do.
most
Absolutely.
government authority can do. Yeah.
Yeah.
There is another question, good question from Basudha Narula. Can we apply for funding there before registering our office there? That's a question there. If you want to answer live, you can go ahead pressing answer live.
Yeah, that is very unlikely. I think a lot of the funding, especially when it's coming from the state or it's coming from local accelerators and incubators, and I'm sure the situation is same in India. When you get funding, you have to be located near the fund source. So it's unlikely that you will get funding as a foreign company unless there is a special program being run to incubate foreign companies. And even in that case, so we had a situation, one time there was an Indian company that wanted to be part of a cybersecurity accelerator, Mark 37, and they were added to the cohort, but they found it impossible to actually engage in any of the amenities that the accelerator was providing because they were located in India. So just for all practical purposes, it's better that you're local in order for you to have access to the right resources.
And it's so simple to register a company there, so you might as well do that. I guess that's one important point. Yeah, one more question, since while we wait for the audience, what kind of opportunities has COVID created? Because that's a big discussion which goes across with different entrepreneurs, that COVID has disrupted a lot of industries and have created some opportunities around anything specific from your place. I mean, Fairfax County itself, you might have seen some activities bubbling around.
Yeah, absolutely. So of course, first and foremost, it was retooling of a number of manufacturing facilities, right, to kind of address the need of the moment. And a number of manufacturing concerns in Virginia changed their operations to either provide masks or to provide ventilators or to provide other personal protective equipment. So that was one, and companies that responded have benefited from that opportunity. There was also a procurement call, a wide call for anyone, anywhere to either locate manufacturing in Virginia, specifically if you are going to provide items and materials that can be used to battle the pandemic. So those are immediate opportunities. I think some of the side opportunities that we saw happen was teleworking and the technology that comes with making teleworking successful for companies, right? So, I mean, I'm sure Zoom is making a lot of money right now.
Zoom is hosted out there or what? I was going to ask you that.
Well, we use Zoom as well at the EDA, but because a lot of companies are doing business with the government, some of them are actually not allowed to use Zoom as a platform, and instead they use WebEx or GoToMeeting or other such, some Citrix platforms that are more secure.
That's being said here in India also right now. So
right.
I think people understand that right now. So
the other thing, I'm sorry, just to finish, the other thing that happened as a result of the stay-at-home orders, or it was a disruption in education, and you mentioned this as well. So
I was going to ask you that any edutech or educational opportunities just come up there?
Yes, so great opportunity for companies like Blackboard. You might be familiar with them. They are already supporting the local school district, which I neglected to mention. We have the 10th largest school district, public school district in the entire country is Fairfax County Public Schools. So it's 189,000 students that the county supports. And as you know, public schools here in the US are free. There's no tuition. So great opportunity for companies that provide solutions for training, for education, and like I said, teleworking as well. The other party that's making a lot of money, I just saw an article this morning, is Netflix, because people are at home, they want to stream a lot of video. So Netflix saw 16 million new subscribers just in the last month. So yeah, those are some of the opportunities. And then I think people are already looking at recovery, right? How is that going to be? At some point, we are going to reopen the economy. It might be in phases. It might be, you know, for certain businesses to begin with. But then what happens then, and what's the new normal? So people are thinking of creative ideas there, that teleworking is still going to continue to be, you know, part of the norm. Social distancing is going to make the restaurants be operated in a very different fashion, and how can technology help support some of that so that revenues are not impacted? So yes, that was the long answer, and the short answer is yes, lots of opportunities being created.
Yeah. So in terms of the EduTech itself, did you see any specific ones coming up at this point in terms of EduTech content, EduTech platforms, and so on?
Yeah, so what we are seeing is a rise in the use and popularity of already existing technologies rather than new technologies. So we already had a number of MOOC providers like Coursera, for example. We just find more people logging on and taking courses there. Already had Blackboard, which was being implemented by the school system. In fact, Blackboard has had to step up to the challenge, because although the platform already existed for our schools, it's not able to handle that volume of synchronous instruction, right? So I can already see that those vulnerabilities will lead to new patches or new opportunities for technology that will be an improvement over the others. We've seen a lot of these companies actually provide their services for free just to tide over this time, you know. So yeah, we're just seeing interesting models come up and a disruption, like you had mentioned before, right, in how things used to be.
Yeah, you think there is an opportunity for a company like Blackboard, who has technology for schools and colleges, to open up there and try to probably obviously give in the beginning for free? That's the trend now.
Well, Blackboard is already here. They're already here. So, and the existing school system,
eventually, but Blackboard is more expensive, right?
Right, but our schools are were already using Blackboard.
Already using Blackboard. Okay.
Yeah. So Blackboard was the means of communication between teacher and student at Fairfax County Public Schools already.
So the schools don't pay for it?
The schools
do pay for it?
The students don't pay for it.
The schools pay for it, okay.
So our local government, Fairfax County government, almost fully funds the school system. Almost half of the county government's revenue goes into their schools.
Okay.
I mean, to 12, yeah.
Okay.
But then there are other learning management systems like Canvas, for example, used by universities. University of Maryland uses it. I told you there are a number of universities here, and also gone to distance learning. I mean, there are only a few more weeks left for the school year, for the college year to end, but all exams are now being held online, and whether they use Blackboard or Canvas or Zoom, they are just kind of transitioning to distance learning technologies. Yeah,
by the way, my daughter studies in Chicago there. So,
in University of?
Yeah, Illinois. Chicago. Yeah, UIC.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah. That's great.
And
great place, great school.
Yeah, I just flew her back here on the last flight, which landed in India.
Is she still taking classes though online?
Yeah, always, continuously. She's on classes online, Blackboard. So, do you think there is a space for similar products like Canvas or Blackboard? Probably Canvas is again, I think a product there, but at a scale it costs. Blackboard, in my understanding, it's a premium product. But if there is a lower cost solution, who is one of our startups, you think there is an opportunity there?
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, there is a lot of opportunity, especially because, you know, again, the volume is becoming a challenge for these companies. So you cannot have one provider cater to so many customers that are demanding of the product now. So there is a lot of opportunity for these kind of solutions.
Okay. Sure, I think I'll bring them up. Let's see. Yeah. So anything else from the audience? Is there any particular questions? Otherwise, we can wrap it up.
I mean, we can always, Dave is available. You have his coordinates. You have my email, Ashish, Binar here. And we are happy to answer questions offline over email as well if they don't get addressed right now or it occurs to you later. The idea was to let you know what we do offer, who we are, what we do, and you know, get introduced. And this has been an excellent program. Eben, thank you so much, Madan. Very nice of you to have included us here. And I hope that your startups have found it useful.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, Juhi and Dave and Ashish, I was really zapped with the kind of ecosystem and having an office here to support people to move up there and all that seemed news for myself. So it certainly will be interesting support system for whomever were listening to us, and we look forward for a very long association and hope to be a catalyst to bring up businesses there from here. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Nice meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Yeah,
thank you, Eben.
Thank you, Juhi. Thank you, Dave.
Yeah.
So probably will what I wanted to as Madan sir told, we will take it as a long term where we can scout startups from India, like South India, particularly to Fairfax County.
Yeah, hopefully we'll add your relationship to be an additional support system we provide, and then that probably can be a catalyst to bring up there.
Sounds perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone who joined.
Bye. Bye.
Thank
See you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you everyone who joined for the webinar, and this will be available online, and we will be coming up with more scale up webinars where you want to scale up from India to across the globe. That's what AIC is supposed to do, and we'll be coming up with another scale up webinar next weekend, next Wednesday. See you then.
Thank you.
Till then,
See you all participants. See you, Ashish. Yeah, nice to meet you all. Good enough, right? I was just trying to make up questions on the fly.